I used to live in a small, run-down apartment building in Queens. The kind of place with flickering hallway lights, water-stained ceilings, and neighbors who kept to themselves. Rent was cheap, and at 22 years old, working nights and going to school during the day, that's all I cared about. My unit was on the third floor, 3C. The hall smelled like mildew, and every time someone walked past my door, I could feel the floorboards groan under their weight. Directly across from me was apartment 7B. Yes, 7B. Even though we were on the third floor, I always thought it was a mistake. Some maintenance guy screwed up the numbers. But when I asked my landlord about it once, he just looked at me for a second, like he wasn't sure how to answer, and then muttered, "Just don't worry about that one." That was the only time he ever acknowledged it, and the only time I asked. The door to 7B was always shut. I never saw anyone go in or out. No delivery guys, no visitors, nothing. First, I thought it was just an empty unit. But then one night, around 2:30 a.m., I heard something. Sounded like crying. Muffled. Deep, pained sobbing. Coming from right behind the door of 7B. I stopped in the hallway, keys in hand, and just listened. The crying got louder. And then suddenly stopped. Not like it faded out. Just cut off, instantly. I stared at the door for a while. My hand was almost reaching toward the knob when I realized what I was doing and pulled it back. I told myself maybe it was the plumbing. Thin walls. Someone watching TV with the volume up. But that night I slept with the lights on. A few days later I came home from work and found something strange wedged into my doorframe. It was a slip of yellowing, folded paper. Looked like it had been torn from a notebook. There was no name, no greeting. Just 6 words written in shaky, frantic handwriting. "Don't look at him. He knows." I stood there, reading it over and over. My hands were cold. My brain immediately thought of 7B. I scanned the hallway. No one around. The doors were all closed. No footsteps. No movement. I crumpled the note and shoved it into my pocket. That night I barely slept. Around 1 a.m. I heard something again. This time it wasn't crying. It was breathing. Deep, slow breathing. The kind that sounds unnatural. Too controlled, like someone trying to hide their breathing. And it was coming from right outside my door. I got out of bed and pressed my ear to the door. I didn't hear footsteps. Just breathing. As if whoever it was wasn't moving. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I whispered, "Hello." Instantly the breathing stopped. A long silence followed. And then I heard soft, almost dragging footsteps retreating down the hall. I didn't open the door. Not that night. The next morning I opened the door and looked around. There was no one in the hall. But I saw something taped to the door of 7B. Another note. Same handwriting. "He watches from the inside. He wears your thoughts." I wanted to rip it down, but something told me to leave it. I didn't know what that meant. Not exactly, but it felt targeted. Like whatever this was, it was trying to warn me, or scare me, or both. I stopped sleeping well. I started seeing things, small things, like shadows moving along the walls that vanished when I turned my head. Or faces. Faces in windows that weren't mine. My reflection in the bathroom mirror started to lag. I'd blink. And it would blink a half second after me. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep. I even considered seeing a doctor. Then one night, it all came to a head. It was 3:12 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I looked at the clock just before it happened. I was in bed, eyes closed, trying to force myself to sleep. And I heard it. Not on my door. From inside my apartment. 3 slow, heavy knocks. Coming from my bedroom closet. I sat up instantly. My heart was racing so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Another knock. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and slowly got out of bed. I walked toward the closet. "Is someone in there?" I asked. No answer. I reached out and grabbed the doorknob. It was ice cold. I opened it fast, ready to run, ready to scream. But there was nothing. Just clothes, hangers. No one there. Then I looked down. The floor. There was another note, folded neatly. This one said, "He wants you now. He knows you believe." The next morning I had enough. I went downstairs to the landlord's office and demanded answers. First he played dumb. "What are you talking about?" I told him everything, the notes, the crying, the breathing, the knocking. His face went pale. Finally he said, "There's no apartment 7B. I stared at him. "What do you mean? It's right across from me." He shook his head. "That unit sealed. Has been for years. We changed the number to stop people from asking." "Why?" he asked. He sighed. "Because the last 3 tenants went crazy. One jumped off the roof. One disappeared. The last one kept saying there was a man in the walls. Said he could hear his own voice coming from outside his body." I didn't say anything. Then the landlord leaned forward and whispered, "We don't rent it anymore. But sometimes people say they still hear him. Looking. Watching." I left without another word. That night I packed my things. I was going to crash on a friend's couch until I found a new place. But as I was leaving, I looked one last time at the door of 7B. There was no knob, no lock, no peephole, just a door. I turned to go, and froze. There was a mirror at the end of the hallway. An old one, cracked and smudged. In the mirror, I saw a man standing at the door of 7B. But when I turned around, no one was there. I looked back at the mirror. He was still there, wearing black, no face, just a blurred, shifting mass where his face should be. And he was waving, very slowly. Ran. I didn't look back. I moved out that same week. I haven't told many people this story. Most don't believe me. But sometimes, every now and then, I still hear things at night. Breathing in the hallway, crying through the walls. And once, a few months ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single note. Same handwriting. "You left the door open." If you ever move into an old building, and there's a door that seems off, don't knock. Don't open it. And whatever you do, don't listen too long. Because some doors don't open into rooms. They open into you. If you've ever experienced something like this, something you can't explain, drop a comment below. Tell me what you heard, or maybe what heard you. And if you're still here, still breathing, still you, hit the like button, subscribe. Just make sure it's really you doing it. Good night.